Welcome back to the Hype Mind. I'm Bear. We got
And
Daniel with me.
this is Daniel.
Yeah, right on. It is. Um, Uncomfortable conversations. I'm here to tell you they need to happen, and I'm also here to tell you why. And yeah, so that's what we're gonna go over. Um, what's an uncomfortable conversation? You probably can already answer that for yourself, but I'm happy to give a few examples. Right? I've had to found myself in a couple different scenarios where this is a great example. Right? Um, negotiating, negotiating where you both discovered you were on different pages when you thought you were on the same page and you thought you'd been communicating clearly, and it turns out you're both a mile apart. And now you have to negotiate when you feel you've been wronged, but you don't necessarily feel the other person was doing it on purpose. I've had people tell me their dark things about themselves where they don't want to open up about it, but they do anyway, and they that's hard. That's a difficult and an uncomfortable conversation to have when you have to tell people the truth about yourself. Um, Relationships, breaking up with people, telling people, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm not interested or whatever. Like you're a great person, but you're not the person for me. Telling people you love things that might hurt them, right?
The
Things you don't want
truth
to tell
is you
people,
love
but
them.
it's the truth. Yeah, right. Because that's what comes first and foremost is the truth.
Because
Again,
you want
I
the best for
love
them
that.
sometimes, and it sometimes doesn't come in a very pleasant way.
Right. Yeah. And again, I love that one of those 12 rules that Jordan shares. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Right. That's a great rule to live by, especially when it comes to difficult and uncomfortable conversations. But those are a couple examples. Did you have any that came to mind, Dan?
No, I think you covered most of them.
Yeah. Right. So there's some great examples. And again, they have to happen. They need to happen. Need, emphasis on need, right? And why? Why do they need to happen? Because, and we already touched on this, because the truth comes first, right? That's what's important is the truth. And sometimes you don't. The truth doesn't need to be shared, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. There's no way around it. And you're wronging yourself and you're wronging others. And when you wrong yourself, you wrong others anyway. Um, and so you have to have these difficult conversations, and you usually know when that is. I know a lot of people who are fearful of confrontation, and even myself, who is not afraid to confront people. Um, there's plenty of conversations and scenarios I found myself in where I'm uncomfortable to talk about something. I'm like, oh man, how do I say this? Do I need to? Do I have to? Yeah,
Yeah, and I got some perspectives too on this.
great.
And one is it kind of made me chuckle a little bit when you said breaking up. Um, it's not easy at all,
No,
but it's like that's definitely a conversation that needs to happen. And of course, you want to make it in the most uncomfortable way possible. But that's more of this is you're getting to a result here. You're like this is leading to something. Another way uncomfortable conversations are important is the discomfort of them, and just emphasizing what is your discomfort, and then asking yourself too, because that can reveal a lot of things about your own personal self and the
like
relationship you
why?
have with
Why?
whatever. So that's when you need to explore that discomfort. That's when you need to say, okay, why am I feeling this discomfort? And then further discovering, do I need to express it? But really asking yourself, where's this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? Has it happened? Have I felt this way before about this situation? Why does it keep coming up? Am I, is this maybe a deeper part of you really erupting from your inner self, saying, that intuitive part of you saying, you need to do something or you need to say something. Like this is important. So
Right.
um it's always, I think the older you get, it's always important to have a greater awareness of yourself, and to a certain extent, your understand your reactions and your discomforts and your fears.
Well, and I think the discomfort that you experience beforehand or during is a sign that you need to address it, right? Not just the discomfort, but whatever it is that you are uncomfortable talking about. A lot of times when you're uncomfortable talking about something, like kind of like what you're saying, Dan, is it brings out that part of yourself that, why am I experiencing this discomfort, right? But the other, like, what I'm getting at is the other thing it really points to is the fact that you're uncomfortable about it means you need to say it that much more, right? It is a burden on you for some reason, and even if you can't figure out why, who cares? It's probably that important to say, right? Because clearly it holds some sort of a weight, some sort of importance, to the point where something's probably at stake if you're afraid of saying it.
That's why you need to dig deeper, for sure.
Well, that's why you need to dig deeper, yes. But if you can't answer why you're experiencing that, fine. That's why you just need to say it. That's why you need to confront this desire to avoid confrontation. This particular confrontation, right? Because that stuff's probably gonna bother you down the road. I would argue it does every single time. Holding that stuff in, making you the fact that talking about it makes you feel uncomfortable means not talking about it is also probably going to make you feel uncomfortable. And in the short term, it might feel better. Probably not, to be honest, but maybe a little bit. But you know, it's like the stuff where people are like, oh yeah, bottling up emotions doesn't help you. It just, eventually you just blow the top off the kettle. It's like same thing. You know, if you think avoiding confrontation and conversations and telling people the truth and important things about yourself or things they need to hear or your opinion or where you stand, your beliefs, whatever it is, then how is it gonna behoove you or others to not talk about that, right?
Mhm. Well, something
Like,
to consider here is that the conversation or the you might think it's destructive to the relationship, right? Whatever kind of relationship it is, because it's uncomfortable. It might push your partner or friend away. But if it does,
business partner, whoever, yeah,
it's
anybody.
probably not a great relationship in the first place. And it should in the end actually make it better. Like what do they say, iron sharpens iron. Like this is good for you and good for them, good for the relationship in the whole. Like this can be very constructive and productive for the relationship by bringing this up. Um, However, actually, I want to ask you, Bear.
Yeah,
So, what does a conversation like this look like? How would you approach it?
that's a great question. Um, and it depends on the scenario, but I think it first starts by there's a couple ways to start. I mean, how much time do you have? How much time do you want to have? Do you need to ask for time and say, hey, I'm going to call you. I got to talk about something. Do you want to, step into it easily, or do you want to just jump right into the cold water? Like, yeah, you got options. You could totally call someone and be like, hey, I'm going to call you. I want to speak about this in person. I want us to take 30 minutes aside. Like I don't want this to get cut short. Or, you could just pick up the phone and call someone and be like, yo,
Oh, that's a great idea.
right?
Like
Like
setting expectations for you.
yeah, you like how you need to handle it, you can decide that on your own. You can handle it different ways, right? And again, it's going to depend on the scenario. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is you could ease into it. When you ease into it, it might be like, hey, I'm going to share something that's really hard for me to share, right? Great. Tell people that. If there's someone, if you think it's necessary to say that, then say it, right? Or you could just jump right into it, which would be step three technically, but could be skipping step two, so it could just be step two, right? You could just say it. You could be like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I believe. This is what I was under the impression I told you earlier, or I was under the impression we were on the same page about. You don't have to tell people um, that you have something you want to tell them or that you need their full attention. You can just say, dude, this is what's up. It doesn't matter what it is, business, family, relationships, right? You can simply leap right into it, or you can break it to them slowly. You can just pick up the phone and call, or you can prepare and make sure there's time, make sure there's the necessary, everybody's on the same page, that there's some important stuff being shared, like whatever, right? But that's how I would approach it, especially if you're afraid of confrontation. Don't be afraid to open up to the other person and be like, yo, this is what's up, like, and this isn't easy for me to just tell you. And if you don't need to do that, great, don't do that.
Right.
And again, start by telling the truth. If you don't want to, if you just want to get right to the point, start by telling the truth. And then hold your tongue, let them say what they want to say, let them respond. Right. A lot
Yeah,
of times
that's great right there.
handle things better than we expect, right? And I can give you a couple examples, right? One time, this person that I was seeing told me some really lousy news, right? It was like, just so you know, this is, this, I know you think I'm this person, but I'm this person, right? And they didn't say anything else. And I had a minute to process it, and I was like, thanks for sharing, right? And like, they thought the worst was going to happen, because we all think the worst is going to happen, and the worst usually doesn't happen. And so, yeah, let if it was a step, I'd say step 4 is listen, let the other person respond, let them process.
Right. Make it constructive.
Yeah,
Two-way street here.
let the connection happen,
Mm-hmm.
but let them process it.
Right. And also now this could happen too, where you have this conversation and the person you're talking to they start to react, they start to get emotional, they start to get defensive. Now, what do you do there?
Worst might happen, right? Yeah. Well, if the worst happens, then you need to be, whether this is unfortunate or not, the one to keep a level head, right? You know, um, I would say that you were already planning for the worst to happen, which is why you didn't want to have this uncomfortable conversation in the beginning. So you're already more prepared than you are.
Ready for it.
You know how, exactly. You know how to walk away. You know how to hang up the phone. You also know how to say, "Hey, don't talk to me that way." Right? Sometimes the stuff sounds like really hard stuff to say, but when you say it and practice it real quick beforehand, you're like, "I can do this. I can." Sometimes you need to be like, "Hey, check yourself. You're overreacting. There's no need to." Like, I've literally said to people, "Hey, you're getting really angry. Like, I'm here. I'm present. I'm not telling you this to make you angry. I'm telling you this because it's important to share, because I care, because this, because that, right? Whatever reason. Um, I would appreciate if you didn't overreact, or it really depends on the scenario, to be honest, because if it's someone you're close with, someone who's family, someone who's a friend, you can be a little more um, intimate, for lack of a better word, not necessarily like physically, but like, understanding, right? And if it's someone who's like a business partner negotiating something, you can always be like, look, I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me. Call me back when when you want to talk like a gentleman, or like human beings, or whatever.
I think the big thing we do is we expect them to change, and that's dangerous to expect that, first of all, for yourself. And it can still be constructive if they don't change, if they even act or react in a negative way, an emotional way. You can still make it constructive for yourself because you were genuine, right? You said what you needed to say. And now you're just focused on, okay, I did what I need to do. I was real. I was authentic. I overcame this fear, this comfort, this situation. Now, what do I do from here? So,
well, and you got to remember too, the expecting them to change again, before you went into this conversation, half the reason you were uncomfortable about it was because you were expecting them to make a judgment, to react poorly to begin with. That's why you didn't want to tell them, right? I would bet 9 times out of 10, it's because you expect a judgment on you, right? And that is very fear provoking. And so again, to expect them to change when 5 minutes ago you were expecting them to not handle it at all, it's silly. You don't have to expect them to change. You don't have to expect them to handle it poorly. Zero expectations is the best thing, but think positive. Think the best way it could go, or just be prepared on all fronts. But let's be real. You expected them to handle it poorly, and a lot of people don't a lot of times. A lot of people handle it really well, and you think, wow, this turned out better than I thought it would, right? So just like it's not fair to, and I get it, life's not fair, but like it's not fair to expect them to handle it poorly because they might not, and it's not fair to expect them to change because of what you tell them or to accept it, right? Who cares? Your job is to speak the truth.
Yeah, it's about you.
Yeah, who cares if they don't handle it when you do tell them, and who cares if they don't change when you do tell them? So watch your expectations. Definitely, great point.
Stuff. Now, this is just great practice for you to be able to just be
there they go.
Be your real self. You want to be your true, authentic self in your relationships. And so that also means
in everything,
the truth.
Life.
When you want to speak the truth, when you feel like you need to speak the truth. Obviously, there's a line of being rude and attacking someone else, but don't shadow down because of this fear, right? Of this discomfort.
That brings up a good thought with being yourself in those relationships, right? Being yourself in all that situation. We did a video a little while back. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's really good on how to be happy, right? How to bring yourself into a happy place. And I think that there's really no better way to do that than to tell the truth, than to live as yourself. And your true self wants to be honest and open, right? You are openness. And to live like that, I think you'll experience happiness, joy probably more importantly. And what does that look like, right? That looks like not you subconsciously living up to other expectations of who you think you should be or who you think you are or who you think other people want you to be, right? But actually being yourself, which is, again, speaking the truth. And so that's a great point because, yeah, be yourself, but the person you are is someone who's meant to be honest and open. And so despite the consequences.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. If that's what you value from yourself too. This is where it comes in. So,
but yeah, if you I don't even remember where I was going with that. If you those uncomfortable conversations, they're going to happen, right? And the truth needs to be spoken, and your authentic self is an honest person, and that brings joy, I think. And so just a little side convo to just add another tip to happiness from our other video.
That's right. One more. We'll add it to that.
We want you to be happy, everybody wants to be joyful. But keep going.
No, that's pretty. I have something funny to share, actually. Really funny. Okay, this is more of it like just self-discovery. Just in life, you learn things, you grow. This will be funny. So there's been several times where I've been in situations where there's this woman or pretty girl in my vicinity that I'm like, I want to conversate. I want to get her number. Okay. And if I don't proceed and walk up to her and start a conversation and time goes by, I will beat myself up. I will say, why didn't you do that?
That's
I
a
will get
great
so I will
example
get so
of
frustrated, so
difficult
mad.
conversation.
Yes, exactly. It is.
Yeah.
It sure can be a uncomfortable conversation. And that's usually what stops me is, even though I've done it before, even though I've seen myself be successful before, there's still a level of discomfort there that I
Sure.
have to go through.
You're putting yourself out there.
Exactly. And so whenever I'm in those situations again, regardless of if I take her out for a date, I'm like, I need to talk to her. If I think she's the slightest bit pretty, I need to go talk to her. I don't care where we're at, because I know if I don't go through this discomfort, I'll beat myself up again. Now
Well,
you could say, you got to be easier on yourself, Daniel. But I also think this is a chance for me to be more authentic.
right. Well, I think, and that's just it. You don't face the uncomfortable conversation, and you might beat yourself up. But even bigger than beating yourself up is the fact that you're not really living out who you're meant to be. You saw something that um, whatever it doesn't have to be another person, right? It doesn't have to be someone you're attracted to. It could be anything, right? You saw an opportunity to open up and express yourself in an honest way, and you didn't do it because it was uncomfortable. But that's going to be uncomfortable. Not doing what's true to yourself is going to be uncomfortable too.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what you mentioned earlier, and that's what you're saying here. And so yeah, you're going to beat yourself up, but like beating yourself up the is the pain you feel from the wound, right? It's not, you're not actually treating the ailment. You're just, you're treating I don't even know what the expression is, but that whatever they say, you're treating the symptom. That's what it is. It's the symptom. It's not the actual problem.
Right.
But the problem is you're not expressing your genuine self. You're not living the true version of yourself that you want to live, right? Which the true version of yourself in this scenario would go up to that person and say, hey, whatever you'd say, whatever line you have, geez, I'm working on adding 2 important dates in history. Want to be one of them? I don't know, something like that, but not living out the true self that you are, that you want to be is uncomfortable.
Right. It is. It absolutely is. It's so uncomfortable. I got to tell you, I just went on a bike ride like maybe 2 hours ago. Right.
Same.
And I passed this girl and I'm like, yeah, I want to talk to her. I turned around, I chased her down. Right. And I just stopped there and, start a conversation. Right. It doesn't really, it's a good conversation, but it doesn't really go well in the end. It doesn't go poorly or anything, but the funny thing is, right, I feel fine, right? I'm biking home, I feel fine. But if I didn't, I'd be kicking myself in the pants. That's it. And so that's discomfort right there.
Yeah.
Motivation too.
Conversations are uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable all the time, even with people so just have them. Live that authentic self, right?
Yep.
It was such a unique thing to read. David Data, his book had it right. You are openness. I was like, dude, you're on point, bro.
Would you say you are openness?
You are openness. Yes. Yep. You were meant to live as openness. I was like, I agree wholeheartedly.
What do you mean by that?
Receptivity, basically.
Receptivity?
Which ironically is one of
receptivity?
Receptivity, receptive, be receptive, which is one of Dr. Dyer's 7 powers of intention, is receptivity. The universe is speaking through many people in many different ways.
Be receptive to the discomfort.
No, I'm talking about your genuine self is a receptive self. Your genuine self is someone who can receive.
Okay. Right.
Open.
In a sense, you could say be vulnerable too.
Yes. That it means that too. Yep. That's just one area of it.
You brought up David Dita too. I was thinking of this because he talks about discomfort. He also talks about pushing your edge, right? If it's discomfort, it's also an edge that can bring you to a better, stronger version of yourself. So when you're in that discomfort and you sit in it and you push through it and you ask the good questions of why am I feeling discomfort? If you lean into it, there's an opportunity to grow there. And so we shouldn't fear it, but we should actually
Well,
engage it just enough and lean
and,
into it.
and that's what's gonna get you through it, right? There's an uncomfortable conversation that you don't want to have. How do you get to the other side? You lean in just a little bit, right? You step up to the edge, you bring your toes to the edge, and you put your face into it just enough to feel it, right? And next thing you know, you've accomplished it, right? Which sounds a little crazy, but you have to picture it. And you'll find that once you get through the other side, you'll totally get what we're talking about. It is exactly what living on your edge looks like, is feeling that discomfort, that, looking at that uncomfortable conversation and leaning in just a little bit. And next thing you know, you'll probably have finished having that uncomfortable conversation. Because that's going to be the step you need. It's like what they say, the what is it? The walk of 1,000 miles starts with one step, right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, right? Leaning into your edge just enough means taking one step, basically, right? And entering the uncomfortable conversation is finding the first step you can take to make the conversation happen. That's all I got.
That's it.
Because otherwise, we're here all night.
Yeah.
Trust me, we could go on and on and on.
That's right.
Speaking of which, you could
Anyways,
with us. You could join us on our podcast. Don't hesitate to reach out. Our email is in the link of this YouTube video. You can reach out. We'll consider hosting you or answering any questions that you have. So if you've got a question, if you're looking for an answer, if you need a problem solved, here's my plug and here's your opportunity. We're here to help. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us on The Hype Mind. Don't forget to hit like, because I know you like this video, and you like us if you didn't like the video. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.
peace.